And the truth is that there's no quick fix for weight loss. It can be tough. It can take time. If you want the process to be sustainable, then you have to be in it for the long term. And you need to create habits which then keep weight off for good once you've got to where you want to be. After all, imagine getting to your goal weight, something you've worked so hard to achieve, only to put it back on in the following months. A huge component of weight loss is your diet, and in a world of quick fixes and next day delivery, it's only natural to want an immediate change. The problem is that most of these are unsustainable, and there's no magic bullet that's going to suddenly make it happen. There is something, though, that can turn the tides and make weight loss easier, more enjoyable, and increase your chances of success. In this episode, we're going to go through the nutrient that plays such a key role and how it can help you out. Hey, and welcome to Vegetarian Health and Longevity, the podcast where we cover the topics which will help you live longer in better health. I'm your host, James LeBague, and I work as a registered sport and exercise nutritionist and advanced clinical practitioner in family medicine. So this nutrient, it's kind of a biggie. I love using evidence and data to inform decisions about health and fitness. I think it's so important to be able to create strategies which are backed up by science because you know that there is a genuine benefit or rationale to it. What I love even more is tying the evidence into practical strategies that actually work for people, and that's what's going to happen in today's episode. We're going to dive into the science a little bit and then apply that to real-life examples so that you get an understanding of how you can use these tricks and tips for yourself. The nutrient we're talking about today is protein, and yes, it really is important. There are so many misconceptions around protein, and in this episode we'll talk through why it plays such a crucial role and how to get enough of it as a vegetarian. One of the common problems I hear is that people are often really hungry by late morning and they worry about snacking when they don't actually need it. It's all well and good to have a plan and calorie goals for weight loss, but if you find cravings and hunger a real issue, then that's going to be difficult to manage long term. It turns out there may be a scientific reason for having these mid-morning cravings other than just being in a calorie deficit. There was a study which investigated the impact of consuming low-protein, high-processed foods in the morning. The study was called Macronutrient Imbalance Drives Energy Intake in an Obesogenic Food Environment, an Ecological Analysis. It examined something called the protein leverage hypothesis, which is an idea where when someone consumes a low-protein diet, they consume more energy to try to account for it. This can then lead to overconsumption of energy, leading to increased adiposity, which is essentially obesity. The study in question found that those who consumed less protein at breakfast then consumed more overall food in the day, and conversely, those with a higher protein intake at breakfast ate less over the day. Importantly, highly processed foods were a significant contributor to this from both a low protein and high energy intake perspective. So the first practical strategy that you could use is to ensure that you have a high protein breakfast, and there are loads of different options you could choose from. Some of my favourite Hurry the Food Up recipes include the blueberry cheesecake overnight oats, Asian-inspired tofu egg muffins, and cottage cheese pancakes. These all give a super hit of protein, but are also simple to make, with the overnight oats and egg muffins being easy to take to work or eat on the go. So it seems like there is this phenomenon that occurs where if you eat less protein, you try to eat more overall food to make up for it. But the opposite is true too, where eating more protein helps you to feel more full and satisfied, and this is deeply linked to the hormonal changes that occur when you eat protein-rich meals. While lots of people think about protein in terms of muscle building and gym goers, its role in our diet goes way beyond that. Protein is pivotal in regulating the hormonal pathways that influence our appetite and satiety. Key hormones affected by protein intake include cholecystokinin, glucagon-like peptide 1, and peptide tyrosine, otherwise known as peptide YY. All of these are known to decrease appetite, and these hormones are stimulated more when you consume high-protein meals. This means when you follow a high-protein diet, you're more likely to feel fuller after eating, which can help to reduce the urge to eat more frequently or excessively. This modulation of hormonal levels by dietary protein is essential not only for immediate effects on appetite, but also long-term weight management. By helping maintain a feeling of fullness, protein supports sustained weight loss efforts and prevents weight regain. As well as that, by being directly involved in muscle maintenance, protein ensures that your metabolic rate remains high, even as you lose weight. And this is because muscle tissue is metabolically active and burns more calories than fat, even at rest. I've discussed this more in episode 3, Why Resistance Training Helps You Live Longer, so have a listen to that episode after this one if you're interested in learning more about it. The practical strategy here is to have a good serving of protein in every meal. One of the common things I've seen with clients that I've worked with in the past is that they don't have much protein at lunch because they'll often have something like a salad to help with their calorie intake. While this might mean their lunch is lower in calories, it won't be that satiating, which means they're more likely to want to eat again later. If you struggle with lunch recipes or aren't sure where to get protein from in your meals, then you can try out one of our free meal plans, which you can download from hurrythefoodup.com/try. That's TRY. We've made it simple for you by planning the meals, calories and macronutrients for you, and even provide you with a shopping list so that you can get started straight away. So head over to hurrythefoodup.com/try. The link is in the show notes to download your free weight loss meal plan and get started. So having a good amount of protein in every meal helps with weight loss by curbing hunger and reducing cravings. Obviously, this is super helpful because it means someone will find it easier to stick in a calorie deficit, which is what they need to lose weight. However, that's not the only benefit from having good amounts of protein in your diet. There was a study which investigated the effects of spacing protein evenly throughout the day, and it was called Evenness of Dietary Protein Intake is Positively Associated with Lean Mass and Strength in Healthy Women. This study included 192 healthy women, aged between 18 to 79. Their research found that intakes of more than 25 grams of protein in one of the 3 periods, which they classified as waking to 11:30, 11:31 to 16:30, and after 16:30, was positively associated with lean mass, upper and lower body strength. They even go one step further and say that for women under 60, consuming at least 0.24 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per one of those 3 periods is the ideal amount, and 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per period if you are over 60. And those are those 3 periods which I just mentioned, which essentially split the day up. Now, this study is so cool and I absolutely love it. Firstly, because it only involved women, which is quite uncommon in scientific studies about muscle, as they usually just focus on guys. Secondly, there was a huge range of age, from 18 to 79, so it means you can apply this to different age groups with more confidence. It also gives some practical numbers, and actually is one of the studies which helps us at Hurry the Food Up to create our meal plans. When we design our recipes, we try to make sure that they have a decent amount of protein, and it would be rare for a main meal to be under 15 grams of protein. And by doing this, we help to keep the protein content up and in line with this sort of research. The effectiveness of high-protein diets in weight management and overall health enhancement is well supported by a vast array of clinical research. Numerous studies and meta-analyses have demonstrated that individuals adhering to diets higher in protein tend to achieve better outcomes in terms of weight loss, fat mass reduction, and preservation of lean mass compared to those on lower protein diets. A meta-analysis is usually considered the gold standard of research, as it combines data from different studies so that there is a larger population group to understand results from. One from Wycherley and colleagues in 2012 examined the effect of a high-protein diet compared to a standard protein diet on weight loss and found a significant benefit for weight loss. On top of this, evidence suggests that a high-protein diet can also help with stopping weight regain as well. I'll link these in the show notes as there are 4 to mention, but the short story is that in adults who have lost weight, a high-protein diet seems to reduce the chances of putting it back on. Suffice to say, when it comes to weight loss, high-protein diets seem to be an incredibly powerful tool. But let's bring this back to practical strategies and how you can leverage everything we've talked about today so far. The first tip is to incorporate a good protein source into every meal. Good vegetarian protein sources here include eggs, low-fat dairy, and plant-based sources such as beans, lentils, and tofu. And although they aren't super high in protein, whole grain carbohydrates, so brown rice and pasta, contain a decent amount of protein and help to bump up the overall content. I advise people to have at least one of these protein sources in each of their main meals, and by doing so, they'll set themselves up really well from a protein point of view. The second tip is to include protein-rich snacks between meals. It means that even if your main meal wasn't particularly high in protein, you'll still benefit from an overall higher protein intake because your snack is contributing, which is the really important part. If you want some great snack ideas, then you can check out the snack vault at hurrythefoodup.com, as we've got loads for you to choose from. Finally, remember that you can use protein supplements like protein shakes to help you hit your protein targets. There isn't anything inherently bad about protein shakes, as they are just powdered forms of protein, with the most common one being whey protein, which is derived from dairy. There are also plant-based protein shakes which use sources such as soy, pea, or rice. My usual advice is to first learn about how much protein you're actually consuming, and if you need to get extra and you're still struggling, then a protein shake might make sense. If it helps you to reach your goal and there's no other way to do it, then that, in my opinion, is way more important. You could have a protein shake on its own or include it in something like a smoothie, and they can be a really nice way of bumping up your protein intake. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did find it useful, then I'd really appreciate it if you could give this podcast a quick review on whatever platform you're listening on. It'll only take a moment, but it helps the podcast spread to more people like you who are interested in learning more about the power of nutrition.